Please listen carefully.
Welcome back to the Focus Target Podcast. This is your captain speaking, Captain Smiley here, and I'm the captain. I've been promoted to captain. I don't know if anybody knew that. My host didn't know that. I didn't prep them for that, but it's true. Captain Smiley here with you for another episode of the Focus Target Podcast, and today we are gonna we're gonna go all over the board. Just to prepare you. We don't really have a true topic. We're gonna hit on a couple different things. We're gonna talk some sports. We're gonna talk some other stuff. I don't even know. We're just gonna kind of talk and you can give us some feedback after the show whether you think that's good or not. So, Van, Shy, gentlemen.
Sir, I mean, Captain, sir.
That's right.
Aye.
I like that. All right. So, before we get into our random miscellaneous potpourri of a podcast, we're going to ask a question of the day, which is what we do here on the Focus Target Podcast. So, today's question of the day is not really related to anything. It's just, if you could re-experience a game for the first time, like go back as if you'd never played it before and really get the full experience of it, which game would you choose and why? I'm gonna start with Shy.
I mean, even as you asked the question, my answer changed. Because really, there's like 5 games I want to say. Because, I mean, games I've talked about many times on this podcast. Any game I love, I would love to go back and play for the first time. Because it's magical. So I'm going to kind of cheat because I want to highlight the fact that 2 games I've talked about a lot wanting remasters came out in the past year, Ninja Gaiden and Mass Effect. And it's just not the same playing them as much as I love those games. Like, the first time playing those games was the best. But my answer has to be Final Fantasy 11 because of everything.
I meant to ask that. I meant to ask that and say we probably would all pick Final Fantasy 11. So I'm sorry, that was my fault. I meant to write that actually into the question.
Had we talked about that last week?
No.
Because it seems like Van seems like Van also is on the same page as you.
No, but that's how I was going to present my answer. I was going to say, look, it's 11, but that seems like way too obvious.
And I was going the opposite direction. I gave a caveat with other games and then said 11.
When I came up with that question, that was originally part of it, and then I forgot to write it down when I wrote the question of the day board in our outline. Okay. So I apologize for that. Yeah, it's 11. If we'd all go back to the glory days of 11, donezo, right?
That's what we talk about all the time. Yeah.
Let's go to a second choice if you can. Sorry, Shy, that's my bad.
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, probably be Ninja Gaiden because the slot, over this past year when both those remasters came out, I actually did play through a bunch of the Mass Effect remaster games. But like Ninja Gaiden, I jumped into a bit and then petered out pretty quick, and it's just not the same. It's like I definitely have like rose-colored glasses about that game, I think, and maybe the time of life I was in. Like I was in a college dorm, and I would just sit down and play it, and guys would come in, my roommates, and like just hang out and watch me play, and it was just like a social experience. And I don't want to, I guess I just don't enjoy like sitting in my apartment playing Ninja Gaiden as much as I thought I would, like versus what it was. So I do miss like the first like time playing that game, which is awesome. But yeah.
All right, what about you, Van?
Real quick. So Shy, when you were talking about how like you like playing remastered games, I was like, dude, he's like the master of remastered entertainment. And then I was like, holy crap. Is an anagram? Is that the right word? Acronym? That's an acronym. That spells more. And I was like, that's hilarious. He's the master of remastered entertainment, and it spells more. And it's like you get more of the same game, just they remaster it for you. And I thought that was pretty damn clever.
It's pretty ingenious.
So I'm just going to call you more from now on.
It's like a Rain Man moment right there.
The master of remastered entertainment. And then the remaster's hyphenated, so you don't do the RM, so it's more instead of more.
Is this how your brain? Is this how your brain operates?
All the time. It's so hard to quiet it down.
I do that with numbers. I look for patterns in numbers all the time, so it's always interesting talking to people.
Yeah. It certainly happens all the time.
If you guys want number and letter patterns here later in the podcast, you'll have that opportunity. Just keep that in mind.
It. So, of course, 11 goes without saying, but then I was bouncing between 2 of them, and I genuinely cannot decide. And it's funny. Shy, you had mentioned it earlier, like, oh, you were in the dorm rooms, you were having fun, blah, blah, all that. And it's like, it's amazing how many games we have great memories of, not necessarily, the game had to have been good, but it was more of where we were in our life at the time. Like, it's just so crazy how often that happens. So then when you go and revisit it, you're not at the same stage in your life. You remember the game being good, and the game is still fun, but it's just not not doing it for you like it did back then. And you wonder why. Um,
Or Final
my two
Fantasy Ultimate
games,
Retail.
yeah, my two games would either be Pokemon Red
Hmm.
Hmm.
or um or Counter Strike,
Oh man.
the original Half Life mod. A lot of the same reasons, just because of I mean they both came out roughly around the same time. Probably within a couple years of each other. I got to look that up and verify that. But I think I'm gonna go with. Damn, it's so hard. Yeah, see, I can't decide. I got to go back and
All right.
forth.
That's all right.
Um,
You can have multiple. I'm gonna have multiple.
okay, so then
Try and
it's both
multiple.
of them. Reason reason being, I just remember I remember my first time ever hearing about Pokemon. I was in a mall with Bentendo, who's been on the podcast before, and there was like a boutique shop, and he's like, "Hey, dude, I let's go in here. I want to look for Pokemon." And I was like, "What the hell's a Pokemon? Shut the heck up!" And he's like, "No, dude, I want to go find one." So we went inside, and sure enough, there was a Pokeball. It was a clear Pokeball. I think it had a Charizard in it, one of the starter Pokemon. And I was like, "That's what you were like all raging about? What the heck is this crap?" So, anyways, he bought the figurine. He loved it. He was a big collectible guy. He got all those things, and then sure enough, he's like, "Oh yeah, the game's coming out." Blah blah. So we bought the game, and man, I just remember how awesome it was, like diving into the quote unquote world of Pokemon, and then actually like completing all 150 51 with Game Genie, all Pokemon possible. And it was just amazing to that a and this was on Game Boy too. So it's not the best graphics, right? It's literally just story and how the game was, and it was something different. It was unforgiving. It was awesome. I really liked it. Counter Strike, just because it was brand new. Never have I ever played a game that was so like competitive online. It sprung kind of the it was a catalyst to spring the internet cafes, specifically in the U.S. at least, where you can go in there and use somebody else's hardware, pay $1.25 an hour, and play Counter Strike until you run out of money. But that was awesome. That was just an awesome time going in there. So I'm gonna go with both of those, and I cheated and I picked
Nice.
two.
Pokemon Red, I think, is definitely a great choice. Like Pokemon has been so done to hell and back with
Right.
different games and variations, but like there was something that first time, like it was so unique. Like there's really nothing like it. And when you first played, I remember the same as you. Like I got it for my birthday one year when I was, I don't know, whenever it probably had been out for a little bit. Like I didn't get it super cutting edge, because I got it the same that year I got a Game Boy Color too.
Yeah.
And I played it on game, and like the Game Boy Color was just so good compared to the
Yeah.
old shitty ass regular Game Boy. Like it was
Yeah.
so
The green and
crisp.
black.
And
Yeah.
like, oh, like when like the Pokemon would like slide across the screen, you'd just be like, "Oh, that looks so good!" Like it's like it's amazing. It's like having my TV in my hand. It was so crazy. Like as a kid, it was a big deal. And
Uh,
yeah, that's a great pick. Mine's gonna be so I have one that's similar and one that's a little bit different. So my true pick is Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy. That's a game that it's really special to me. Like it was, um, so I never actually got Final Fantasy the game. My stepdad got it as a Christmas present, and he thought I would like it because I at that time I was, I mean, I was probably like 1990 or 91 something. So I was, I was like 8 or 9 years old. And like I played like Mario and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and DuckTales on my Nintendo. Like I had no like fantasy, like background at that time other than like loving like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So like I wasn't into RPGs or anything like that. But my stepdad was like, "Oh man, I think you'll like this game." And so he played it and I watched him, and like it was like such a cool experience. Like I would like consult the maps and like kind of guide him and like look up the monsters because it came with the bestiary, and like try to help. Like I basically was like the co-pilot for his run through this game, and like it totally just like captured my imagination and really got me into RPGs and that whole genre in a way that I may never have. And that game too was just so like such a core RPG experience, like going into dungeons, getting treasure, fighting monsters, leveling up, like the sense of exploration that that game gave me as a kid is one that like I really loved, and I would love to be able to re-experience. My second game I would choose is a little bit different, and it's I wouldn't want to experience it as it first came out. I'd want to experience it today. So, like, if I could erase all knowledge I ever had of the game No Man's Sky
Oh.
and come to it fresh,
Mm.
or if you flip it around and say the game that's out now, if that was what was released when we were building up to it, like, I wonder if we like if I might still be playing it today. Like, there was like so much of that was like the failing to meet expectations that like it really kind of ruined it. And now too, it's like it's hard to get back into it because now there's so much and there's been so many updates, and it's like it's a little bit like trying to join an MMO that's been going for a long time, where it's just like it's a little overwhelming trying to figure everything out. Um, but like I wonder how that game would have been if it had been what it is now when it was released. Like I feel like that would be a cool thing to maybe experience.
I want to go back and re-listen to our No Man's Sky episode because I just remember it being on. It was showcased at E3 2 years in a row. It took so long in development. It was super
Mhm.
hyped,
Yeah.
and then the launch that it had and the controversies that surrounded it were something unique.
Well, and it was an independent developer, remember? And like Sony like picked them up and like really bumped up that hype, and it was like you just
Yeah.
could tell that that was not a good thing. Like they weren't
Yeah.
ready. They were not. They
Weren't
didn't have
ready.
the infrastructure. They
And then
didn't-
their response to everything too. Like you can literally case study everything that's been happening with No Man's Sky and who is it? Who
Hello
is it?
Games.
Hello Games? Yeah.
Colors.
You could. I mean, just that story in and of itself is pretty fascinating.
For sure.
And it's
But you
probably
got it.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd say it's probably one of the big examples of like what has become a trend nowadays of like over promising and under delivering, which we're dealing with right now with and recent memory.
Please bring up Battlefield so we can talk about it today because yes, I want to have that conversation.
Well, you get an opportunity. Yeah, I was just gonna say the one thing you got to give about that game when it came out, though, we were pretty blown away by it technically. Like I remember, if you remember that first time that we like went from Earth, from like the planet into
Yes,
space, and it
yes,
was
dude.
just like, whoa,
To be able to
that's
just
crazy.
fly from the
Yeah,
surface into space was bizarre.
it,
And then you take a step back and you're looking at the galaxy in like 3D mode, and you keep pulling yourself back, and you're like, "This is
it was overwhelming.
unfathomable." Yeah,
Yeah, it was wild. Like it was pretty cool. All right. Well, that's the question of the day. I think there were some good answers there. I think that ended up being a good question. I gotta throw it out before I forget. So I actually stole that question of the day from the DNVR Avalanche podcast because they threw that out to them on one of the like it was like an email episode where you like it was kind of on an off day, like during while the Avs were on their on the COVID shutdown for like 2 weeks, and they still did podcasts. And so they kind of went off of hockey and were doing other stuff. And they asked that question to the host of that show. And I was like, oh, that's a great question of the day for our podcast. So thanks to the DNVR Avalanche podcast. You guys should look them up if you want a good Avalanche podcast. I'm sure you two don't, but Avs fans out there, they are, in my opinion, the best. So
Could pitch all of our NHL teams podcasts.
we probably could. We probably could. But since I stole their question of the day, I wanted to give credit
All right.
where credit was due, or to whoever asked them that. I don't know who. They didn't say who asked the question, so I can't credit that far down the chain. Okay, let's get into some Super Bowl predictions, gentlemen. We got a Super Bowl coming up, and for those of you who may not have been paying attention to football, two teams that maybe you didn't expect or maybe you haven't seen in the Super Bowl in a while: the Cincinnati Bengals against the Los Angeles Rams. What do you guys think of that matchup? Van, I'm going to start with you.
I like it. I
Did
think
you?
it's a good matchup, and I'll tell you, I had the Rams on my radar this whole season.
Well, yeah, the Rams they were a popular pick for the Super Bowl. So
Right.
that they're not like, oh, what a surprise, but they're a team that like they haven't been there. Like they've been good recently, but they're not the Patriots or
Right.
a
Right.
team that's there every single goddamn
Yeah.
year.
I'm going for the Raiders myself.
Yeah,
Nice.
But
how's that working out for you? I heard they're not keeping that interim coach as the head coach. I
dude,
heard
they're
they're
not. They
taking
just
Bill.
announced. No, we're
Yeah,
getting. What is his name? He coached a few years. I'll have to look it up. But no,
yeah,
and
I
that's
saw that
well, I
news.
heard they were going to keep him, and it was great news. And they said that the players absolutely love him and fought for him to be their head coach. And then they go out and announced, I think just yesterday, that they have they're hiring
Yeah,
somebody else.
it seems kind of strange because it seemed like he did a pretty bang up job there in a
He
tough
absolutely did.
situation.
He absolutely did. But anyways, we're not here to talk about the Raiders. We're here to talk about Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels is
Oh
hired.
yes, that guy's
And
a douchebag.
He actually the Denver Broncos, right? Yeah.
Yeah, the
Nope.
Broncos ran
Nope.
him out of the town because he tried to be the
Yeah.
next Belichick. He
He
stepped
drafted Tim
in and
Tebow,
he
number
drafted
1 in the
Tim
draft pick and
Tebow,
everything. Yep, I
and then
remember now.
he tried to spy on some opponent's
Yes,
practices, and
with video
everybody's like,
cameras.
yeah,
Yes.
and everyone's like, "We don't want you. We don't want to be the Patriots. We don't want to cheat. Get this guy out of here."
So
And he
so it's
got fired a couple
bizarre.
weeks later.
It's bizarre. They picked him up. And I think yeah, and that year when he was with the Broncos, he went like 4-12 or
He
something like
didn't have
that.
a good
Like
year.
it's ridiculous. So anyway, we'll see what happens. He must know somebody or I don't know. But anyway, I'm going for the Rams. I'm a Raiders diehard fan, as you all know, and I know they're a big well, I mean, yeah, yesterday's game was pretty interesting because it was 49ers versus Rams, and or I guess 2 days ago,
That was
and
California.
the Raiders hate both of those teams for that exact reason. But I think me being an LA boy and having Stafford on my fantasy league, which is why I knew he was hot shit, watching him every single week. I got to go for the Rams on this one over the Bengals, and
I've had
I think they're going to do it
I've had Stafford in a couple of fantasy leagues back when I used to play fantasy, so I think he's a solid quarterback. I was telling Sarah the other night that I was when he went to the Rams. Before that, there was a lot of rumors that he might go to the Broncos. And I was really hoping they were going to make that happen. I would have been really happy for him to come to Denver, but
for sure.
he obviously made the right choice for himself.
Yeah,
Um, and so I feel the same. I'm probably going for the Rams. I like to see the Bengals. It's good to see them. They've been bad for a long time. Like they've had a
right.
lot of they've been kind of a laughing stock for a while, and so it's good to see them finally get a chance to get back to the Super Bowl. I think that was cool. I was kind of a part of me really wanted it to be Bengals 49ers because the last time the Bengals were in had a playoff victory, they were in the Super Bowl in 1990 against the 49ers. It was Joe Montana versus Boomer Esiason. And I
Mhm.
remember watching that game. I watched that game as a kid. Like it's one of the earliest games I can remember watching. Um, but I am happy for the Rams. You know, Von Miller from the Broncos went to the Rams, and I think it's cool. Like, not that they don't have a good offense, but like the Rams are built on defense. Like they care about defense. They built a strong defense. They brought in all these great defensive players. And as a guy who still thinks that defense should be played in the NFL, like I like to see teams that do that get rewarded personally. And they have in a number of years. I mean, we saw the Seattle defense famously be very good and win and get some Super Bowls. The Broncos did it with their defense the year they won, and so I think that's cool.
When was the last time the Rams went to a Super Bowl?
I don't think they've been too recently.
Yeah,
Was the last
2000.
one?
No, it was. Yeah, it was
Did they get
2019.
it?
I remember there was a
Oh,
very very recent one. And that was
that's
against
the
New
one
England.
they lost to New
That was a
England.
snoozer. Yeah, 13 to
Yeah,
13-3. I remember that
that's
one.
right. I
But I
couldn't
think
remember
before
who
that it
got
was a
down there.
while.
It was probably Kurt Warner before that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd
2000,
imagine so. I don't
2001
see
maybe.
them.
Might have been 2001.
Yeah.
With against the Patriots again. Kurt Warner against the Patriots. The game that they where they lost. Remember they're the
Yep.
famous
2002, St. Louis against
2002.
Patriots. Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
the famous Isaac Bruce game where like on the last play he stretched out and was like this far short of the goal line and they lost by 6 or something. 4 or 6 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it was 3. 17-20. God, that's crazy. At the Superdome in New Orleans.
What about you, Shy? What do you think of? You got any opinions on
Yeah,
Bengals?
I do. Screw the
All right.
Rams. As
I knew that was
as
coming.
someone
I knew that was
who
coming.
roots for a team in the same division as them,
Oh,
I have
sure.
no
Dude, how does
love,
it not?
no love for the Rams. So, and I think it is cool the Bengals are in the Super Bowl and apparently are doing well. Like, because they've had horrible playoff records over the past decade or more, but they've had some decent seasons. And I know it's been frustrating for their fans because they'll have a really good season and then they just like lose in the first round of the playoffs, and it's like, what's going on here? Is Andy Dalton still their QB, or who's QBing for the Bengals
No,
now?
it's Joe Burrows, who was the
Oh,
Heisman
I'm not familiar with
from
it.
a couple of years
All right,
ago.
gotcha. All right, so
I,
he's
I
in. All
actually
right.
I liked him because when he first came out, everyone said, "Oh, you're gonna be drafted by the Bengals. What do you think about that?" Like a lot of people probably maybe don't want to go to a franchise like that. If the Browns, the Bengals, things like that. But he was really like, I can't remember if he was an Ohio guy already, but he was like, I want to go to the Bengals. I want to be a
Yeah.
part of that. I want to be the guy that brings them back. And like, I just love when a guy has takes that challenge and is like, I'm not afraid to go to a bad team. Like I'm gonna make that team better. I'm gonna help
Yeah.
them. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna shy away from it and be like, no, you guys trade me to New York, trade me to a real team or a real market. Like it's nice when they're not divas and they're like, let's go. Sorry.
Like Brady to the Bucks.
Did you guys hear
Smiley's
Brady?
disappearing.
Did you
Sorry.
guys hear Brady was reportedly going to retire, and now he's maybe not going to retire? And like,
Dude,
we're going to
last
deal
night
with this.
they were saying he's retiring.
Yeah.
Now it's
Now he's
not might not retire. Oh
now
my
he's like, well, I haven't decided. Yeah, this is going to go on the entire damn summer.
God. He
I
needs to
hate
get
Tom
out of here.
Brady. I wish he would just retire and be done. I'm just happy that Patriots and Brady are not in the Super Bowl this year. Finally,
No,
There you
see,
go.
dude, we're
get them out
all
of
right. So
there.
this is breaking news. Washington Post, credit where credit's due. Tom Brady is announcing he is retiring from the NFL, ending days of uncertainty. So apparently
Wait,
he's
He's
So now he is.
announcing
announced it?
or he has announced.
This is it seems like he actually okay. So we'll have to get you more breaking news on this podcast. But here's a quote from the Washington Post. This is difficult for me to write. It's actually quoting Brady. This is difficult for me to write, but here it goes. I am not going to make that competitive commitment anymore. I have loved my NFL career, and now it is time for me to focus energy elsewhere that requires my attention. That's literally from him. So it sounds like he is retiring.
For now, we'll see.
Maybe he's
I
gonna.
hope
Yeah.
he does. I hope he does. I'm sick of that guy.
His energy, the direction he's focusing in is he's gonna move to Smiley's neighborhood and like try to befriend every resident in that neighborhood, including Smiley.
We'll see.
All right.
We'll see.
He's just gonna go on a world tour.
Maybe
of all
maybe
the
he
people
could
who
win me
talk
over.
poorly about him on
Maybe he could win
podcasts.
me over. He's
he's like,
probably a charismatic
like,
guy.
I will
you know?
not die with anyone hating me.
It's like the opposite of the Jay and Silent Bob tours, where instead of going around to kick people's ass who talk shit about him, he goes and tries to make. That'd be a cool thing to do. Like if you did that, you probably win me over.
Maybe we can get him on the podcast.
Maybe we
much
could.
as
That'd be
maybe
cool.
get him and
That'd be-
Microsoft on the same day.
Yeah, can we get him EA to sponsor a podcast
Yeah.
with Tom Brady?
Listen, I guess my feelings about Tom Brady are pretty clear. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's whatever. We can
We
get
don't need
into
to
it. We
recover
can't do
yeah,
otherwise.
rehash.
But, like that'd be a pretty good get. Like we could get him on here. Like I wouldn't say no if you want to come on the pod. Like, I'd be respectful.
There you go. There you go.
I know how to treat a guest. Like I'm not gonna, make fun of them or anything. All right. So yeah, and I got to ask, did any of you guys see that? Like any of the playoff games, but specifically the two Kansas City playoff games leading up against the Bills and then against the Bengals, because they were pretty freaking wild.
Almost all the games are wild, dude.
They were.
Well, the Kansas City one specifically coming down to a field goal with seconds, right, on both of them. Like, yeah, they were all pretty wild.
They were all pretty crazy. There was a little bit of drama that came up after the Buffalo game, because as happens, it seems like at least once every couple of years, the Bills and the Bills took the lead with 13 seconds left. Mahomes worked his magic, got him into field goal range, tied it up in that 13 seconds. Like there had been back and forth. It was like 35-35 or something. Then they go to overtime. Kansas City wins the coin flip. They go down and score a touchdown. And the Bills never get back on the field after all that. And so, of course, it brings up the the question that always comes up from that is like, what about the overtime rules? Is it
Yeah.
fair that one team can lose without ever actually getting a chance to put their offense on the field? And that's kind of a question that's bigger than any one season or any one game. And so I thought it'd be interesting for you guys to weigh in if you want to.
I think we should just solve it here on the podcast.
Solve the podcast. All right, solve it on the podcast. That's what we do here.
Go ahead, Shai.
Shai, what do you think about that? Do you think the overtime rules need to be looked at?
Why would we change the rules set down by the football gods in ancient times? I mean, that's like they're in stone tablets. Like, why would we try to?
This rule is 3 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think it only has been since like 2017.
My philosophy is if something's
really
a rule, why change it?
They changed it to this from the old just running an extra.
Yeah, I don't
running
an
extra quarter or whatever.
I mean, isn't this? I mean, how does this differ from a lot of sports? I guess because I've been watching a lot of hockey recently, and isn't it the same idea that the first team that scores a goal in overtime wins?
Hockey and basketball, you can't really. I mean, everybody's out there. You don't have an offense.
It's not a defensive.
You don't have a possession.
What people always compare it to is college football. To answer your question,
right.
So in college football, both teams get a full possession, and to do like usually from their opponent 25-yard line, and if it's still tied after each team has a possession, then they each get another possession, and you keep going. Each team continues to get one possession each until the score is different at the end of that section. Um,
So it's like
and the
team A gets a possession. If they score a field goal, team B has to do a field goal
or
or
better.
better. And in the event that they do better, they actually win the game. And that's where I was going to go with that. That seems fair. There is some advantages to going second because in college football specifically, because if your team is only able to muster up a field goal, you know what you have to do in order to continue going. Whereas the team that goes first, they don't know if a field goal is going to be enough. They don't know if they actually have to get that touchdown to stay in it or even have a chance at winning. So I do think there's a lot of strategy and fairness in the college um, overtime rule. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, I'm going to take a different position. I'm actually going to take more of a shy's position, but for a different reason. So I don't think they should be changed. I don't think the rules should be changed at all. And it's because, as I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, I believe the defense should still be played.
Yeah.
I think the rules are actually the rules they changed it to. I think are actually really fair. You can't. I think making it so you can win on a field goal is pretty cheap because a lot of things can happen. Like one penalty, one pass, one good kick return can almost get you into field goal range if you have a good kicker. And so that's pretty cheap to say like, okay, the defense, you can't give them anything. You can't give them one good pass over the middle, otherwise you're done. That's kind of messed up. But if you want to say that like you you shouldn't just be able to give up a touchdown without a penalty. Like if they win the toss, they're 80 yards away or 75 yards away from the end zone. Like make a stop, hold them to a field goal, and you get the ball back, and then this isn't an issue anymore. So I believe the defense is an equal part of the game to offense. I believe a defense should be accountable for keeping your opponent out of the end zone. If you're unlucky enough, I mean, you could make the argument that if you believe in your defense, it's actually better to lose the coin toss because if they get the ball and you stop them and they have to punt, generally you're going to get the ball closer to the end zone than they are to start with. So, um, I guess
Did you
depending on
technically win the coin toss and defer?
you could.
But
I don't think
that
anybody's
would
ever
be
done that in the
bizarre.
history of overtime.
Yeah,
Well, because
Be like
you
Pete
you're
Carroll running on the
right. It's
one
an
yard
offense
line in the Super
game.
Bowl.
you'd have to
Yeah.
really trust your defense, like something serious, or
And you'll be picked
maybe if it's
apart.
like a
Yeah.
yeah, or like if it's like a
So
3-3
I guess
game and
so
neither
I'm
team
getting
can
to a point here.
yeah,
So the reason it doesn't happen is because everybody feels that offense certainly has the advantage. So
yeah,
then we are back to a coin toss advantage. You do make a valid point where defense has to play in the game, but there's a reason why everybody chooses offense whenever they win that coin toss.
that's fair. Yeah, I mean that's true. And listen, nobody can make an argument with a straight face that offense isn't favored in the NFL in
Right.
today's
Right.
NFL.
Right.
Like
Sure. Sure.
it just is. Absolutely it is.
Yeah.
And so like sure, and then that's I guess that's a good counterpoint to me, right? And like this is again to reference my wife. I like to reference my wife on the podcast. Hi, Sarah, since she does listen to us sometimes. Um, when we talked about it, she kind of felt more like you that kind of both teams should get a chance. And I wouldn't hate that, right? Like if they went to more of a college style or something, like I wouldn't rail against it. Because like you said, there is an advantage to the offense, but
Yeah. But does it need to be changed? Yeah.
I don't think so.
That's
I think you can make a stop and keep them out of the end zone. Like
What
step
was
up
it?
defense.
Well, what did they change it from? Was it the college football style a few years
No,
ago?
no. Historically, it was just straight up first team to score wins.
All right.
So if you win the toss, you get a couple first downs, kick a field goal, game's over, just like that.
So it does seem like it's improving. It is an improved state now than it
Oh,
was before
I
they
think so.
changed. All right.
I think it
I'd
certainly was.
I'd be curious to know, like, hear from the NFL why they don't do the college style, and I wonder if it has to do with like programming, like some kind of like like a market share or financial reason, right? Like they don't want a game going for 4 hours plus that's televised or something like that. If you had multiple overtime,
Yeah, I do. I don't know, but I think that's probably it. Is that like you get into kind of almost like a baseballian situation where like literally like you don't know when it's going to end. And I mean
yeah,
that's true. That's true in the real game too. Technically, like I mean, if you had two great defenses and really bad offenses, like you might not be able to score points at all.
yeah.
But in general, it's going to end a lot quicker. I don't know why else because there it seems like Van's position is the most common. I hear a lot that people think that the college game has a really great overtime system, and it's like, why doesn't the NFL do it? Like, there's obviously got to be, there's been clamoring for that for sure. So, like to your point, they must have some reasons, and maybe some financial ones. Usually, is the reason things happen in the NFL.
Yep.
All right, you got
That or
something more on
blood.
that? You got something more on that, Van? Or
No, negative.
all right, all right. I think unless you guys have any other comments. Oh, so we kind of said who we were going for. Is that the same as your picks? Are you picking the Bengals and then the Rams in the Super Bowl? Super Bowl picks. Who do you think's gonna win?
I have no reason to make a informed pick, so yeah, I'm going with the Bengals.
Okay. Is that
I'm
you're going with the Rams?
I'm gonna stick with Rams.
I think the Rams are the better team, and you know what? I've thought every team the Bengals have played has been the better team, and the Bengals keep winning. So maybe it doesn't mean anything, but I think I'm going to go with the Rams as well. All right. Well, you heard it here first, people. There's our Super Bowl predictions. You can make fun of us, one of us, when we're wrong, because one of us is going to be wrong at least. All right. Do you guys want to check in on the NHL real quick? We usually do a little NHL
Why
segment.
not?
We can keep it quick. We're about to go into the All Star break. I think today's the last. I know today's the last Avalanche game before the All Star break. I don't know if there's other games tomorrow, but I know All Star weekend's coming up. Um, Avs are like the best team in the league, and they just win and win and win. They're on like a million game winning streak. Haven't lost at home in 2 decades.
So bizarre.
It's not bizarre. It's just, I mean,
Oh, it's bizarre.
they're here's what it is. They've had a really light schedule. Like they've really only had 3 or 4
Unlike
games
the
where
Vegas
they haven't
Golden
gone.
Knights, who just went through the freaking gauntlet.
Yeah, the gauntlet the Avs have been through has been the can you get up for these games because you're playing Arizona and Montreal and some teams that are just near the bottom of the standings pretty frequently.
There are
Here,
games
let me
tomorrow.
rattle off.
Oh, there are.
Yeah, and I wonder if they're like makeup games for postponed, because I know one is the Seattle and New York Islanders game that was postponed from last Saturday. So like there's 5 games tomorrow.
Okay.
Let me rattle these 4 teams for you who the
Okay.
Vegas Golden Knights just played: Capitals,
Okay.
Hurricanes,
Oof.
Panthers,
Oof.
Lightning. It's like what?
Yeah.
Did they beat the Panthers?
They no, they lost to the Hurricane, the Panthers, and they did beat the Lightning.
You know who
And I'm
just beat the
pissed off about the
Panthers?
Hurricane Panthers because those who are astute listeners can hear that my voice is a little not how it usually is. But so I was sick recently, and I was able to watch both those games in their entirety, uninterrupted, and they lost both of them, and it was so disappointing.
Yeah,
Those are 2 of the best teams in the league. There's definitely
3
arguments
of
that
the best teams in the league: Hurricane,
yeah,
Panthers, and Lightning. Yeah,
yeah. No, that's true. Well, and Capitals aren't that far behind, to be honest.
yeah, no, exactly. They're a strong team. But before that, it was the Canadians. But we're not going to talk about that.
I think this would be a good
They did win that.
this would be a good segue into our the Kraken update, because you know what team has swept the Panthers in all of their meetings this season? The Seattle Kraken. That's right.
There's no
Undefeated against the Florida. Yeah, no, we beat the Florida Panthers
serious?
every time we played them. Yep.
Oh my God.
We also beat the Hurricanes last time we played them as well.
Oh my gosh.
The Kraken are an interesting situation because we have one of the lowest records in the league, but I heard someone on one of the podcasts I listened to
30 or something.
It's not that bad, but it's like mid 20s. It's like 14-26, maybe 14-27.
There's 2 teams at the bottom, and that's Arizona and Montreal.
Yeah.
Then there's a little gap, and then there's the Seattle's kind of like the bottom of that next tier.
Yeah,
14, 26, and 4.
Yeah, that's what I think. Is exactly what I said.
Yeah.
But I heard someone say the other day that it's like they play to their opponents, which is an issue the Seahawks have had for a long time. It feels like where like we've been beating good teams, but like we just lose to horrible teams, and a lot of times it just feels like we're not playing well. So I don't know. It's just funny watching them beat good teams randomly, but just not having a good record. It's not funny, maybe.
Well, we'll see if this holds true. They're currently playing Boston.
Yeah.
Literally right now.
0-0 at the end of the first. So
that's right.
Scoreless.
We'll see how they go. And Boston's a good team.
Yep,
decent team.
They are
a good team, yeah. Well, and that's why I said that it actually is impressive that the Avalanche have gotten through the gauntlet of bad teams, because you do see that more often than not.
Yeah.
The better teams sometimes take a night off. Don't think they need to bring it, and the fact is that you don't. It's not like as partially because there's so many more games, but it's not like football where teams go winless. Like even the worst teams still get 20 wins a season, 20, 25 wins a season. It's not
Like
always
baseball.
against other bad. Yeah, just like baseball, right? Like you play often enough that like even good teams lose to bad teams. Like you
Yeah.
can't take
The
anybody. You
Dodgers
lose
are notorious for that. Notorious for that. Playing the Rockies, they lose. It's like, why? How?
why? Why indeed? I know it doesn't make any sense to me, but I
Arizona,
like it.
lose. Why? Like, makes no sense.
So, who's your team's representatives to the All Star games? Shy?
Is it Jordan Eberle? I think that might be. Is
Probably.
there? Yeah, that's that would be my guess. Is it's Eberle? Definitely not Grubauer.
I just feel like you maybe overpaid a little bit there, huh?
So the thing is, talk. All right. So another Kraken check really quickly is that over the last like 5 or 6 games, his stats are actually really good. Like he's been playing really well. So like if this is him turning a corner, that's great. But like if you take his whole season stats up till now, I think he's potentially the worst goalie in the league. Potentially,
Yeah,
like
his numbers were pretty rough.
yeah, yeah.
Van, what about you? How many did the Golden Knights send?
I I need to find I'm trying this is trying to do the research right now because last I heard they weren't sending anybody, which I thought was bizarre
Well,
considering where the All-Star break's going to be at.
well,
That they were
and every team gets somebody. Every team gets one player. So like
yeah.
maybe somebody declined or was injured, but like
Yeah.
every
Oh
every
no,
team.
I'm confusing with the Olympics. Sorry.
Olympics.
They're
Yeah,
not sending anybody to the Olympics.
Yeah, nobody is.
Um
nobody is. Yeah.
oh, is that oh really?
Yeah, the
The NHL
NHL
said
NHL pulled out of the Olympics because of COVID. So nobody.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I'll have to get back to you.
every team gets one All Star.
Mark Stone and Petrangelo.
Oh, they get
And
two.
It looks like Pete DeBoer is going to be one of the
Coach.
coaches too.
Yep. Yep.
So that's cool.
There you go.
And
It
Eberle
looks like. Let
was
me see.
the
NHL announces head coaches for the All-Star weekend. Yeah, Pete DeBoer is going to be one of the coaches. Okay, so we're sending a coach. We're sending Mark Stone and Petrangelo. That makes sense. Pacioretty's still IR, and I mean Mark Stone's a badass, and Petrangelo is one of the best defensive players. So yeah, makes sense.
Yep. Yep. Avalanche get to the captain of the Central Division is Nathan McKinnon, but not sure if he's going to play.
Nice.
He got his face destroyed by a stick and has to have some facial reconstruction surgery. Also had a concussion, so he's been out since that happened. And they said, what I've heard is they don't know if he's going to be available for the All Star game, which is sad because the last time he was the captain of the All Star game, he was also injured and had to take like a coaching role. He got to like be behind the bench and be a player coach, but he didn't actually get to play. So it'd be kind of funny if not funny, but like fucked up that like two All Star games in a row you're voted the captain and you don't get to actually play. Um, so yeah, so the Avs got McKinnon. They also got Kale McCarr on defense. They also got Kadri as another applicant, and they also have their coach Jared Bednar is going to be behind the bench for their respective division. So, but and honestly, the Avs probably could have had like two or three other players in who deserve to be there. Like Mikko Rantanen probably has had the stats to back it up, and Devon Taves is probably better than like 90% of the defensive players that are actually in the All Star game. But I mean, Avs can't send their whole team, right? I guess other teams get to have some representation.
this a Avs podcast all of a sudden? What's going on? Like, go write the DNVR Avs podcast. I hear they have fun questions
They
that
do.
are asked them in
They do.
mailbag. So
Yeah, they do a really great job. If you're an Avs fan, you should definitely check them out.
I'm happy for you, Smile. I'm happy for you. You've had some rough Avs
Listen,
years. So
listen, I'm not. We talked about this a little bit off the air before the show, but like, my only fear is like, I hope they're not peaking, right? Like, you don't want to be the best team in the league halfway through the season. You want to be the best team in the league at the end of the season. So, um, you know, hopefully
like
they can keep it going. But
like peeking on who? Like you? Like when you're not paying attention, or
do you not understand synonyms? Synonyms are too. That's all right. Well, we'll
just
post it in the comments.
trying to make it a pun? No.
All right. Anything else about hockey? We've kind of gone through it. Obviously, I'm happy where the Avs are. Golden Knights still seem to
I'm
be
happy
pretty
where
good.
the Golden Knights are.
Kraken, they are what
I
they
mean,
are.
yeah, I didn't really have major expectations for them. So
It is fun though, isn't it? Like at least it's fun when they can steal a win against a team like the Panthers or something. Like
yeah,
I know in the years that the Avalanche were bad, and you knew they weren't going anywhere. Like it was still great when they would have a good game and have a good performance and like were fun to watch. So
Well, one of the cool things I listened to call out another podcast. I listened to a podcast called The Sound of Hockey, and one of the hosts is an AHL. Like he does a lot with the AHL. He follows a lot of AHL stuff, and a couple of the people we drafted are actually having really good years with the AHL. So like Matty Benier, and I'm trying to remember the name of the other guy, Ryzen or Riser or some of that. But like they both look very promising, and so like there's a lot of like, and we still have like $9 million in cap space. Like next year could be a really good year depending on how Ron Francis handles, off season. And
well, it does seem like that's kind of how they built the team a little bit. Like they didn't like they had more of an opportunity to build for this year, and they kind of seemed to choose not to. So clearly, they were trying to get something going for more down the road. So
yeah,
all right, well, that's it for
Are
NHL
we gonna do
time.
a live viewing of the All Star game?
We could maybe. I mean, those 3-on-3
Record
All
it for
Star
the
games
pod.
are kind of fun. Might be fun.
Yeah.
are we? I mean, we probably can't record the game, but we could like record our like this part, like talking about
Yes.
it or something.
And then watching it. Yeah, that's true. We can watch live with people who are following us on Twitch. That'll work.
Twitch.tv. All right. Anything else hockey related, gentlemen? All right.
Negative.
I'm passing it. I'm passing it to you guys. Then, what do you want to talk about? Take some time.
I think
Start.
I think, sir, you are the first one to take some time.
Yeah, but I just talked about the Avalanche, so we're gonna break it up.
No, you didn't. But the
Wow.
rest of us talked about our teams too.
Yeah.
So go.
Fine, you want me to go first? All right, I'll go first. I'm gonna just talk about. So last episode we did Disc in the Drive, and I feel like I didn't get to a lot of the games that I've been playing because we kind of ran out of time. So I want to talk a little bit about Hades. I think I mentioned it very briefly, but like, boy, that game really hooked me in. Like, what a fantastic job they did with that game. It's by far the best kind of roguelite game that I've ever played. Um, and for those that maybe don't know what that means, like a roguelite is a game where you're kind of meant to die, where you kind of go through into generally like a procedurally generated area that's generally very difficult, more difficult than you're not even expected to clear it the first time. But as you go, you collect resources or skill or whatever, and when you die, you get some kind of you know you bring something back with you that you can use to enhance your character, make yourself stronger, allow you to delve further. And that's kind of the gameplay loop of like, pushing a little bit further, going a little bit deeper, getting a little bit better, and kind of constantly making yourself better to be able to get all the way through the game. And Hades does a great job of most of those games are very bare bones story wise. And it's more like you're kind of like maybe you're like discovering lore stuff, or whatever, but like Hades is like full on, like there's an overarching story. There is a lot of great dialogue, a lot of good voice acting, a lot of funny, just like funny stuff and funny moments, and just the way the what's shocked me about it is that like even after like 40 hours and like basically being into the post game, like getting through the main story and being into the post game, like I'm still hearing dialogue that is new. Like it's not just like the same, like, it's not like, oh, I've heard this quote, I've gotten this buff 400 times, but he said something different every goddamn time I've gotten it. And like the little, like, there's all these little, like, interactions that kind of play out in between your runs when you're in the, like when you're kind of in the home area between the characters, and like there's all these little like side storylines that are going on, and again like new ones are still coming up even now. Like I don't know how many hours I'm into it because it's on Switch, and so I don't like, I think I can go in and see hours played, but it's not super easily, readily visible to me. But I've I'm sure I've put over 100 hours into it. And like it's just so addicting. Like I still play, like I've still been playing it even though I'm like, again, like pretty deep into the post game and just kind of like I'm really in that like checking the final boxes type of mode where I'm trying to complete some of the challenges and things like that. So fantastic game. And finally, I think what I want to say about it is that, like, I think when I did talk about it very briefly in the last podcast, I had said that I thought I was pretty much done with it because I felt like I'd made my character about as strong as I could, but I was still getting my ass kicked by the final boss. I just didn't think I had the technical skill to get through it. Well, then the next day I cleared it, and then a couple days after that I cleared it with a different weapon. And so I, like, there's all kinds of different like weapons you can use, and kind of changes the run. But yeah, so it just kind of goes to show that, like, it is also a game that you do get better at too. Like, you're getting better, your character is getting better statistically through your runs, but like a lot of it is just like learning patterns. And I mean, it's ultimately an action RPG, so um it was gratifying to feel like I actually did get better myself, not just that I pumped more stats into my character to be able to beat something. So yeah, check it out. Hades. It's on basically every like, it's on PC, it's on PlayStation, it's on Switch, probably on Xbox. So, you know, if you're looking for a game, just be careful. Like, if you're that game can take over. Like, if you got other things you want to play, you might focus on that. Um, and then I do have another game I want to talk about, but do guys want to take a turn and you'll come back to me at the end, or do you want me to just knock it out? What do you guys ready to talk or what? Cool. Van, your turn. We'll come back to me at the end.
Shy can't like act like he's gonna say something and then just bite his lip and not say anything. Otherwise, I would have said something to kill the dead air.
What?
But
I
we
was
gotta work
acting
on our
like I was going to
communication.
say something.
Yeah, you like
This
sat up
time,
and you were like,
this time without the oops.
yeah, without yes, without the oops. Okay, first off, I just want to say Happy New Year. Happy
Aw.
Lunar New Year to
Yeah.
everybody, something that we've missed. That is celebrated in my family.
What year is it now?
I think it's
What?
the dragon,
Oh, I thought
I
it was just a dragon.
believe.
Wasn't it just a
Or the
dragon?
lion? Let me see. Happy, or why am I typing happy? Lunar New Year. It is the year of. This is taking way too long.
Yeah.
There's a picture of a dragon.
Talk
but
about
that's on
dead
every
air.
New Year. This is somebody else. Look it up while I talk about what I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about.
Go ahead.
Alright.
I'll look. I'll effort that for you. Go ahead.
So anyway, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay. I played a new game. Pretty cool game that I honestly would have liked to have visited with you guys as well. So I picked up a new game that I've been playing with CKY12A, friend of the podcast, Tom, and it's called The Forest. And what it reminds me a lot of, it's an old game. The game came out, I think, in 2017 or something like that. There is a Forest 2, and that might be something that we all jump in together. It reminds me a lot of Valheim. It's like a mix between Valheim and DayZ. So it's a survival game. You're thrown in the middle of an island off of a plane crash, and there's really no direction. There's an overlying theme in which you need to find your son, because your son was actually taken from you. You're kind of coming to out of this plane crash, but you do see some type of figure grab your son and pull him out of the airplane, and then bam, game starts. And it's it's much like a lot of other survival games in Valheim, where you're not given much in the beginning except maybe a wooden stick, and then you learn that you can craft and start building more things. And your son had a survival handbook with him when the plane went down, so you were able to find your son's survival handbook and some of his notes and all that stuff, and use that survival handbook to just start building a city, building barriers. There are enemies which are some type of mutants. We're not sure. We're still playing that game, but there's some type of mutants. They move funnily enough. Some remind us of the Wendigos from Until Dawn, where they're like on all fours and they're super fast and they run around like spiders and stuff. Yeah. Other ones are just like your typical zombie cannibal guy, where they're just standing up and they slash at you and sting. But so there are enemies in this forest. But yeah, you gotta. Right now, we're trying to piece together puzzles on where our son could be. We can say our son. It's 2022. So where Tom and my son is, and we are playing it cooperatively from the very beginning. So we're trying to piece together where he is right now, but at the same time, like, we need to build a better fort. We need to build sustainable food, sustainable water, right? So we need to find a place next to a lake. So we're just working on all these fundamentals to continue on with story progression. So at this point, we're just trying to build our strong foundation, and hopefully I will have an update on The Forest for you soon. The Forest 2 does drop in May. So I'll give you all a better, more longer recap, and then maybe that's something that all of us can dive in together cooperatively, and I think that'd be a lot of fun. It'd be like a Valheim all over again.
Yeah, Valheim was good. Uh, to answer your original question, you were close. It's the year of the tiger,
Ooh.
There you go.
not the lion, the tiger. Yeah.
Got it.
It's the
Tiger Woods.
Eye of the Tiger. Oh,
No, year
Year.
shy.
Darn
Year of the Tiger.
All right, yeah, man. Force 2, yeah, keep us abreast of that. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Shy, your time.
You been playing another game, Van?
I'm not.
Oh, no other games. You haven't been playing any other games.
I
All
have
right.
played other games. I've played a lot of other games.
No game that
played...
rhymes with rattle peeled.
There's also one that rhymes with Sarming Fimulator.
I was trying to segue.
I spent a lot of time in isolation. Okay?
I was trying to segue into Battlefield, but whatever. All right.
And then I also picked up Pokemon Arceus, but I'm not ready to talk about that yet.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited to hear more about that. Because a friend of the pod, Ray, is apparently in it. So
apparently he's like one of the main characters.
He's in everything. All right. Quick. I talked a lot last episode about discs in the drive, so I'm just gonna do a quick update. But still playing Battlefield. And we'll probably have to do a Battlefield 2042 episode, kind of like what we did with Battlefront 2. It's turning into quite a debacle, and yet I find myself playing it still. I still enjoy playing the game. I don't know, and more. Like I've been enjoying it more than I did when I started playing it. I don't. It's just weird. Like it's just odd. But yeah, so I'm playing Battlefield. What I was going to talk about just briefly for like a couple minutes was Lost Ark. The new hotness in the MMO world is releasing. Early access starts Tuesday at noon, apparently, next week. So less than 7 days now. I know a number of friends of the pod are going to be trying it out. It is a Korean. Oh, Smiley. Do
you know what time on Friday is it noon on Friday?
I don't know. That would make sense to me if it was noon on Friday, but I don't know. I think a lot of people. It's funny because the only way you get early access is by buying a Founders Pack, and I think a lot of people with Founders Packs are like. Not even sure how much they'll get to play the first 3 days. Every MMO launch these days is like a huge cluster as far as queue times and server reliability. So probably the free-to-play players are going to get the biggest benefit because they don't have to shell out money at the start, and they'll probably It's called Lost Ark. It is an isometric MMO, so it like looks like Diablo, with like a Korean skin, but it's an MMO, and I think the biggest thing I was going to say was Amazon. So it's produced by Korean developers. Been out in Korea for I think almost 4 years now, and then they've had a Russian release and a Japanese release. One of the cool things about it is it's had great reception wherever it's released. Like in Korea, it's like one of their most popular games. So like I think that's a good sign for the Western audience that it is a well-made, fun game. But it's being published here in America by Amazon Game Studios, which recently had kind of a disastrous game launch with New World. So it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of bring some of it back with Lost Ark. But they just they've been doing regular monthly updates before the launch, and they just announced like a week ago some of the endgame content that's coming out with the game. And it's much higher endgame content than a lot of people thought. A lot of people thought they were going to like gate the content to a certain point. Like so that like players could get through to a certain point, and then they drip feed some content, and they are, but like it's I'm trying to think of like a good example, like almost if you think of like when we started playing Realm Reborn, like there were like the level 50 dungeons, and then like after a month or two we played, then like the Bahamut's Coil came out, and like we had like more stuff to work on, more difficult stuff to fight. Imagine if like all that had dropped day one in Final Fantasy Realm Reborn, and people could just like the hardest core players could just gone straight, they just kept playing and just like go all the way there, and then like maybe more casual players might feel left behind. Well, there's been some of that, I don't know, like everybody's looking for controversy nowadays, so whether or not it matters or not, who knows, but they are apparently releasing more content at launch than was originally anticipated, and a lot of people are wondering how that will affect balance and other things. But yeah, I'm sure next time I podcast I'll have more to talk about that for sure.
Yeah, I hope to as well. I don't have a Founders Pack, so I won't be playing early access, but I don't know how much time I would have anyway. I don't know how much time I'll have regardless, but I'm hoping to get in there a little bit at least and kind of see what's going on with it when it drops for everybody. All right. The other game I want to talk about just super briefly is so I was playing I was playing Shin Megami Tensei 5 on Switch, and that game was all right. I wanted to talk more about it, but I honestly haven't played it in a couple weeks because it really was just making me want to play the Persona games like Persona 5 instead. And then for the free PS Plus game, I guess last month for January was Persona 5 Strikers, which I had never played and was kind of like an action, almost like a Dynasty Warriors kind of take on with Persona 5. And so I downloaded that and I was going to try that out, and I realized as I started that it's actually a direct sequel to Persona 5 Royal, and like it takes place like afterwards, like on the timeline. And so I was like, man, like I never actually finished Persona 5 Royal. I finished the original game and beaten it, but when Royal came out, a bunch of games all came out at the same time. I think Persona 5 Royal and Legend of Mana, or Trials of Mana, and I think Final Fantasy VII Remake Part One all kind of came out within a
Yeah.
short period. And so I had started playing through Royal, and it was cool. Like there's a lot of added content, but then I kind of lost track of it due to playing other things and never went back to it. So ultimately, what I'm trying to say is, I was like, I've kind of put Shin Megami Tensei down, and I put Persona 5 Strikers down, and I've been playing primarily in my off time. I've been playing Persona 5 Royal again, trying to get through it. So that's been enjoyable. I have heard, like, I guess there's been a number. The Atlas has said that there have been a number of Persona related announcements coming this year, and one of the ones that people are hoping and clamoring for is, besides Persona 6, is a Persona 3 remake, or even
Ooh.
like, even if it's not a remake, like at least like a remaster to bring it to like Switch and PlayStation and the newer consoles. And I am really hoping that they do that. I playing through Persona 5, which I do love. I think Persona 5 is a great game, but and it's definitely much more polished, but I still think 3 is my favorite. And I've kind of been feeling like I want to do another playthrough of 3, but I'd much rather do it on the current gen consoles,
Mm.
especially if they add a little, like some remaster content, gives it some quality of life, maybe add some bells and whistles. So I'm hoping one of the big announcements for Atlas will be a Persona 3
Nice.
remaster. I think that would be awesome because that game was so good. So yeah,
Nice.
there you have it. That's my spiel. That's what I got for you. Um, Anybody else? I think we're getting close to being about time. Does anybody have anything else they wanna get off their chest here? We can talk about pattern recognition at all. You guys missed an opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we didn't
Maybe
really.
maybe a future podcast.
Yeah. Maybe we didn't recognize it.
D-Rock Galactics,
Maybe there were no patterns.
D-Rock Galactics on PS Plus for free this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get it, Shy?
Why would you play it on a lesser platform when we already all have it on Steam?
It's a
Oh,
great question. I put
Eee.
something in our channel, the channel for the three of us, saying, "Hey, like I might be more interested in playing it on consoles because I tend to like first person shooters better on consoles," and nobody said damn thing. So I assume nobody wanted to play it with me. So that's all right though.
Felt like we've tried to play other shooters on console that ended up poorly.
Van always buys third-party attachments to try to make the console feel more like a computer.
So I feel like
Take us out.
Deep Rock's probably one of the types of games you could play on console. Well,
Probably,
don't you think
yeah.
so? Like it doesn't really require a lot of the precision. It's not like you're not like sniping people in a PvP
Yeah, you're just
situation. Like
spraying and
you're
spraying,
blasting the
and
shit.
I
Like
mean,
I think that would be very console friendly.
until you start doing deep dives, and then it
Yeah.
gets serious.
Maybe I didn't get that far.
God, to unlock those trees again. No thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being with us today on the Focus Target Podcast. If you have feedback for us, let us know. Let us know what you thought of the format of the show. It was kind of wild today because we kind of had to call some audibles. So we'd love to hear from you. We're on Twitter at Focus Target. We're on YouTube, Focus Target Podcast. All of our past episodes are there. Some of the side stuff we've done. We're broadcasting live on Twitch, twitch.tv / Focus Target Podcast. And of course, the best way to reach us for feedback is by email, focustargetpodcast@gmail.com. So thank you all for being with us here for episode 107. This is your host, Captain Smiley.
This is second mate Shyrol.
Yeah, and this is Van. Covers Porkins. We're out.